If you have solar panels on your roof, your setup has a gap in it, and the gap runs for 16 hours every single winter day. A grid-tied solar system produces exactly 0 kilowatts from sunset to sunrise. That is not a design flaw, that is just physics. But what most solar owners do not factor in is how much that gap widens in winter specifically. A typical 6 kW rooftop solar system in the U.S. Midwest generates roughly 30 or more kilowatt-hours on a good June day. In December, that same system produces 8 to 14 kilowatt-hours, and the sun sets at 4:30 in the afternoon. That means your panels produce nothing for more than 16 hours every winter day. And during the hours they do run, they are already working at 20 to 35% of their summer output because of shorter days and a lower sun angle. Cloud cover makes it worse. A thick overcast sky can drop your solar output to just 5 to 15% of its rated capacity for hours at a time. So your solar setup is not covering what you think it is covering. And a battery only stretches your daytime production into the night. It does not generate anything on its own. The problem is not that solar is bad. The problem is that solar only works when the sun is out, and the sun takes a break every single night and a long vacation every winter. What if there was a generator that runs exactly when solar cannot, at night, in winter, and on overcast days, and could sit on the same roof your panels are already on? That generator already exists, and it has been engineering tested on urban rooftops in Europe and North America. It is called a vertical axis wind turbine, or VAWT. Before you picture a giant wind farm with blades the size of airplane wings, stop. A VAWT looks completely different, spins on a vertical axis like a spinning top, and is specifically designed for the turbulent, gusty, shifting winds that exist above buildings and rooftops. Here is why that design difference matters more than most people realize. The standard wind turbine design, the kind you see in wind farms, is called a horizontal axis wind turbine, or HOT, and it looks like a propeller on a stick. HOT work well in wide open flat land where the wind blows from one direction consistently. But above a rooftop in a city, the wind swirls, shifts direction constantly, and gusts unpredictably. A HOT has to physically rotate its entire head to face the wind. When the wind changes direction above your roof, the turbine spends part of every gust pointing the wrong way and losing energy. A VAWT accepts wind from every horizontal direction at the same time, which means it never turns away from a gust, no matter where it comes from. That is the core reason VAWT outperform HOT in exactly the conditions that exist on urban rooftops. The chaotic, multi-directional wind that HOT cannot handle is the wind VAWT are built for. VAWT are also quieter at the same rotor size. They do not produce the low-frequency whoop sound that horizontal turbines make, which is the main noise complaint that has gotten residential wind turbines banned or restricted in neighborhoods across the UK and US. They are safer for birds too. VAWT blade tips move at much lower linear speeds than HOT tips at the same rated power output. And both academic research and conservation groups confirm substantially lower bird fatality rates. Maintenance is simpler as well. The generator on a VAWT sits at ground level, not at the top of a tower, so you do not need a crane to service it. There are two main types of VAWT design, and understanding both helps you know what to look for. The first type is called a Savonius turbine, 2 or 3 scooped half-cylinders that look like a twisted S shape, and wind pushes one scoop forward while pulling the other around. Savonius turbines start spinning at very low wind speeds and work well where winds are light and variable. Exactly the urban rooftop environment, but their power output per swept area is lower, typically a power coefficient of 0.15 to 0.30. The second type is the Darius turbine, the egg beater or H-rotor shape with airfoil blades that generate lift rather than drag, the same way an airplane wing generates lift. Darius turbines are more efficient, with power coefficients reaching 0.40 to 0.45 in optimized designs, which puts them close to what horizontal turbines achieve in open air. But they cannot start spinning from a standstill on their own. The engineering solution used in most modern residential vault is a hybrid of both. A Savonia section handles the startup at low wind speeds, and a Darius section takes over for steady, efficient generation once the turbine is spinning. Real field data backs this up. A 1 kW vault tested as part of the EU-funded ELALI FPS project in 2019, specifically engineered for city rooftops, produced 1,000 watts of mechanical output at a wind speed of just 6 meters per second. A 2024 study at Concordia University in Canada installed vault on a 30-meter building rooftop and found they produced up to 36% more power than identical turbines placed at ground level. Because roof edges accelerate wind flow, the Turby turbine, developed by a team at TU Delft in the Netherlands, is rated at 2.5 kW at 11 meters per second and was specifically designed for rooftop installation. It is one of the most documented residential vault field trials available. German city center buildings have been fitted with arrays of small vault, each rated around 3 kW at 8 meters per second, often paired directly with rooftop solar panels. Now here is the part you actually came for. What does solar plus a vault actually cover together, in real numbers? Based on Department of Energy wind and solar resource data modeled against a U.S. suburban household with a 6 kW solar system and a 1.5 kW vault on the same roof, solar alone generates roughly 9,000 to 10,000 kilowatt-hours per year. The 1.5 kW vault adds another 2,200 to 2,800 kilowatt-hours on top of that, bringing the combined total to between 11,200 and 12,800 kilowatt-hours annually. On a summer day, solar handles 60 to 80% of your household load from 9 in the morning to 6 at night. The vault adds 5 to 20% on top of that during the day, and then becomes the only active generation source from sunset until around 11 at night. On a winter day, solar drops to roughly 20% of its summer output. The vault, which statistically sees higher wind speeds in winter at most U.S. residential sites, delivers 3 to 5 kilowatt-hours during the daylight window and another 1 to 3 kilowatt-hours through the night. On a heavily cloudy day where solar drops to near zero, wind speeds typically spike as weather fronts move in. So the vault is statistically producing more on the exact days solar is producing least. Wind is more prevalent at night than during the day at most land-based residential sites, more prevalent in winter than summer, and more prevalent on overcast days. Those three facts are the exact mirror image of solar's three failure modes: night, winter, and cloud. A solar-only system with battery storage cuts your grid import by roughly 60 to 70%. Adding a well-sited vault pushes that number to 75 to 85%, with the nighttime gap specifically closed by 25 to 60%, depending on your local wind resource. There are honest limitations here that matter. A usable rooftop vault costs roughly $4,000 to $5,000 per kilowatt of capacity in the UK home market, which is more expensive per kilowatt than a solar panel. Energy Sage has documented residential wind products that generate close to 0 kilowatt-hours per year when installed in poor wind locations. So knowing your local average wind speed before buying is not optional. A 2023 Washington Post investigation found that rooftop turbines frequently underperform their spec sheets because roof-level winds are weaker than manufacturers measure them at hub height on a test mast. Siding matters as much as the turbine itself. Real hobbyist experience from the r/wind turbine community suggests that rooftop vault typically deliver 30 to 50% of what the marketing numbers promise in actual home conditions. Net zero electricity for a winter month still needs either a larger turbine or grid backup for most households. Solar plus Vought gets you close, but winter nights in Chicago or Boston are not fully covered by a 1.5 kW unit. What this combination does reliably is close the gap that every solar-only homeowner thinks does not exist in their setup. The one that runs from 4:30 in the afternoon to 9 in the morning, every single day from October to March. If you want to understand what happens to your home energy system when you add battery storage to this solar plus wind setup, specifically the battery technology that cannot catch fire, that video is on your screen right now.